You are listening to the Showbiz Side Hustle Podcast, powered by PerformerPreneur. I am your host here, Nicole Louise Geddes, and together we'll be delving into all of the ways that a showbiz side hustle can support you now and long into the future. So sit back, relax, and listen in, and together let's get inspired to take action to create the life, future and business of your dream. Welcome to today's podcast, the Showbiz Side Hustle Podcast, powered by PerformerPreneur, and this month sponsored by Danny from DD Practical Leathercraft. She makes traditional handcrafted heritage leather with a unique twist. Practical leather at practical prices, as seen on BBC's Make It at Market. Find her at www.ddpractical.co.uk. Hello everyone, welcome back to the Showbiz Side Hustle Podcast, and today's episode we have an awesome expert here to talk to us about vision. If you've been following this podcast, you will have heard my take on vision, but today I am bringing in a superstar who is going to talk to us all about the science of it, plus some beautiful little frilly bits as well, I'm sure. So welcome, Shelley. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me. It's an absolute pleasure to be here. I'm not sure about superstar, but let's keep going with that.
You're a superstar in my eyes, honestly.
I love that.
And I'll tell you why. Because this performerpreneur journey for me has been going on since the pandemic. And you and I met in the pandemic. And I was just thinking about that moment. And it really, really has a super special place in my heart. There was so much going on. And that moment you came into my space and spoke to me and 1,000 other performers and just really gave us hope that actually, you know, if we use the power of our mind and vision, and you went all sciencey on me, which I do love. I actually like the science. And it just sits really, really beautifully with me and my journey. And so I had to bring you back. So you're a superstar, and you helped me and many through that moment. I'm absolutely positive of that.
I remember that time well as well. And look at us now. We're great examples of the power of vision too.
We are. We should talk about that actually as well. I'm sure that's going to get mentioned today in the podcast. Shelley and I, for those of you who don't know us too well, we're both over in the Middle East, and obviously we weren't always over here in the Middle East.
No.
So Shelley's in Dubai and I'm in Oman, and the journey to get here has been down to belief and vision and hard work, obviously.
Absolutely. Keeping focused, but the work that goes in alongside that. Yeah, very much so. And randomly as well, because we literally moved over within about a month of each other too. And we've kind of floated in and out of each other's lives over the last 4 or 5 years since that time back in the pandemic. So yeah, look at us now. Fantastic.
Well,
I just love that we're in contact.
It's not even on topic, but actually, don't the people that you need in your world appear when you need them the most? I'm just
absolutely
a strong believer that, you know, people and places and things all happen for a reason. So we were meant to meet all that time ago. You were meant to meet my gang all that time ago, and I was meant to reintroduce you. And Shelley actually has reintroduced me to her people as well, whilst I was in Dubai helping and talking to her mentorees as well. So yeah, let's crack on. We could talk all day.
Let's do it. We could.
So the topic is vision. As I say, I have touched on it a little bit on the woo-woo side. I know that you have got more insight into what that actually means in terms of what our brains are doing and things like that. So I'm gonna shut up because I know that you can do this without any interruption from me. But I will obviously interrupt because that's what I do. Take to the stage, Shelley. Tell us all the nuggets that we need to know to inspire my listeners who, may I add, are some building businesses, but also some curious about even just starting them.
Okay. All right. Okay. So I'm going to, obviously we're going to do surface level, because I could talk about this all day and some. And look, I guess let's just pick up on the woo piece, because I'm often heard saying I'm not woo, okay, and actually that's probably evolved. In fact, I definitely will have said that back in 2020. I'm not woo. Just be really clear about that. I would say I'm much more in the woo curious phase than I've ever been, and I do believe, as you just said, that people come into our lives for a reason, and I also believe that we have an awful lot of control over a lot of stuff. And let me give context to that. So let's just talk about vision. And that's a really big word, isn't it? It can be quite an intimidating word. It can be quite daunting. But what we mean by vision is, do you have clarity? Do you know what you want? And before we even get talking about the science of vision, I just got to pop in there with the whole, do we know what we want? Because so many people say to me, I don't. And actually, I will challenge everyone right now. I bet you know what you don't want. So let me just kind of throw that out there. If anyone's like starting with, you know, when we start talking about vision, it feels really scary. It feels really big. It feels like we've got to have, and often I think we overcomplicate, we get carried away with it's got to be a really big vision. And actually it's almost like we can't say out loud if our vision for our lives doesn't seem as big as everybody else's. Okay, your vision is your vision. Your vision is, how do you want your life to be? What do you want to be happening? What do you want to be doing? How do you want to feel? And we're not encouraged, I think more so now in the 2024 era than we ever have been. We've not really been encouraged over the years to do that. In fact, we've probably been encouraged quite the opposite. You know, if you think about how we are conditioned as children, we are told to be grateful. We're told to be grateful now. Be grateful for what you've got. You know, don't show off about when you've got more. There's even, and I'm going to throw this one in before I get to vision, there's even the whole kind of be careful what you wish for, as well as if you do make a wish when you're blowing out your candles, don't tell anyone because it won't come true. If you think about some of these subliminal messages, it's no wonder straight away that we all have a bit of a challenge with vision. But the beauty of vision, or having a vision, is it gives you something to get really excited about. And actually too many people get scared of having a vision because what we do is we go straight to, well, I'll never be able to get there. I'll never be able to achieve that. I'll never be able to do those things. Now, if that's what you're thinking straight away, let me tell you now, you're right. You will never get there. You will never do those things. You'll never be able to, because if you are telling yourself that, you won't. Now, I get really, so I said I'm kind of woo curious. I once heard a podcast, cannot remember who said it. And this person on the podcast said, I sit on the crossroads between spirituality and science. And I think that's where I sit, because I'm really interested and curious about spirituality, but I understand science. So I am going to bring the science in, because this is when everyone goes, oh God, now I get it. Okay. So look, having vision is really, really important. As an entrepreneur, for all of us in the entrepreneur world, if we don't know where we're trying to get to, then how on earth do we keep going in the tough times? And that's the number one piece. We've got to be really clear about where we're trying to get to and why it matters to us. Mm-hmm. But I'm not going to sit here and say, if you get really clear what you want and you put a load of pictures on a board, it's all right, the universe will deliver, because it won't. That's not how this works, okay?
I've got a whole chapter that says exactly that.
And
there is a lot of hard work. And people don't necessarily show the hard work. That's the problem we've got now in society. We're all just there on Instagram showing the best bits. But
we're showing that we've got, absolutely. And of course, what we see is the end result. So we think that all these people, and so look, you know, let's be cheeky for a while. There are a lot of people that will tell you, if you ask the universe, it will deliver. That's not how this works, people. Okay. But here's how I think about the universal principles. Everything that you want is out there in the universe. Everything that you dream of, someone's already doing it. Someone's already got it. It exists in the universe. Okay. Therefore, it is yours for the taking. The piece that nobody really talks about is the how you get it. Now, obviously, I'm not going to go into the whole action piece, because, you know, that's almost the simple part. Not the easy, but the simple part. But what I do want to just kind of reiterate is the power of vision. And I'm going to link it into the power of vision boards, visualization, and all those things. Okay, here's the power of those. Because I know this is the bit that for you were like, oh my God, and your people want to share it. So this is why I love science. There is a part of your brain, okay? I don't know if this, so it's the base of your brain, and it's called the Reticular Activation System, okay? Our brain is the most incredible organ ever. And I say this a lot, you know, it's also our brain. It does what we want it to. It acts, it performs based on our thoughts, because it's our brain. No one, despite the fact that we think that everyone around us impacts everything we do, the only person that really impacts us is us, because we are in our brain. We just don't know that. The Reticular Activation System is the most incredible part of our brain. I think neuroscientists might say, Shelley, there's quite a lot else there. But, you know, when we're talking about vision, The reticular activation system is really, really clever. And let me tell you what it does. The reticular activation system is this bunch of nerves, and its job is to filter and delete and process all of the stimulus, all of the thoughts, all of the visuals that we see, everything that's going on all around us. Now, I said it already, our brain it's our brain, okay? It works based on our thoughts. So if you can learn to channel your thoughts into the things that you want to achieve for your vision of your life, you are much more likely to get there. Now, that might sound really obvious, but when you also understand how the RAS, the reticular activation system, works, you can use this to your advantage. Because what the reticular activation system is doing is saying, look, there's a lot going on. If we get really clear on what we want, really clear, like really specific, I'll come back to that, then our brain can work in tune with us and help us filter out all the stuff that's not relevant. That's why vision boards work, because if you use a vision board properly and you have something on your vision board that reminds you on a daily basis of what you're working towards, your brain is focusing and it's carving, like it's cutting out all the other noise. So the best example of this, and we'll have all experienced this, is I always use cars. I'm no car buff, but I always use the car analogy. The red car, because I had a red Mini. You see, I always use it so much. But when you buy a car, I actually heard someone talking about this on a podcast this morning, like they decide they want a yellow car. Actually, I'll use yellow today. So you decide you want a yellow car. And you want a yellow car because not many people have yellow cars. But the minute that you decide that you want a yellow car, you notice all the other yellow cars on the road. And it feels like everyone's got a yellow car. There are no more yellow cars than there were before you decided you want a yellow car. But your brain is filtering the stuff that's not relevant to you. Now imagine how powerful that can be when we start to hone in on our vision for our life, the things we want to achieve, the goals that we have. If we can filter out the noise that's not relevant, we can see the things that are relevant, the opportunities that may take us closer to. It's just, that's like the whistle-stop version, but it's insane how simple it can be. Now, I want to also come back to your point. When we see these things, we've got to act upon them. When we see these things, we've got to do something with them. But just...
You can't see the wood from the trees to start with. You're not going to take action on any... So that's the point, isn't it? Once you can get through all the noise, the wood from the trees, the opportunity is there. Are you brave enough to take it? That's another step in the plan. But
that's a whole other podcast.
Yeah. But it's there, and it's there for the taking if you want to find the support, take the action, take the steps. I'm just so excited because, as I say, as we both know, as I started this podcast with, this all kind of just, I'd done this, Shelley, without knowing and understanding it. Like, I've been very successful for a very long time, and I just put that down to being kind of young and bolshy. Like, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. But actually, it was because I had a very strong sense of where I wanted to go and what I wanted to do. Mm-hmm. And as much as I could say at that age, nothing was going to stop me, things were, and they did, but I was just very much on a path to get to where I could see that I wanted to be. Now, the problem that I face with my clients from the entertainment industry goes right back to what you'd said at the beginning. Do you know your vision? And they do, but we have been programmed, like you're saying, children and society in general. There's an extra layer for us. We can't admit that we want something different from what we are doing. It's very much programmed in, like, you are a performer, this is what you do, you've trained your whole life, like, how could you leave it behind? It's a love. So we've got to get through that barrier as well, not only like a child being told not to wish for things and people not daring to believe, but also being brave enough to put their hands up and say, I want something different to what I'm doing now, in terms of what this podcast is about. So it's quite layered for everybody, 100% sure, but we have got that one as well, like judgment. I think judgment comes into our version of vision.
That's really interesting, because I guess I can't help, I go straight to coach mode. The question I'd encourage everyone to ask themselves is, judgment of who? Because actually that's what this is really about. And actually, are you judging yourself? Because if you are, I'll go back to, well, hang on, your brain, like, why would you do that to yourself? Like, literally kind of internal. If judgment of others, there's a couple of things. And look, I can really resonate with it in a different way. Now, I had a 25-year corporate career. So when we talk about vision, I knew exactly what I wanted out of life. I knew what kind of house I wanted the cars. I knew that materially I had a very clear vision for what I wanted. And I wanted to have experiences that I hadn't had as a child. But actually then I got to 40 years of age and changed that vision completely. And because of different things. And I guess that's that piece around, there's a quote, isn't there? That we're always going to be judged by others, but actually the only judgment that matters is that of yourself. But I'll also, and I'll say it somewhat cheesily and then I'll make it more real because that's what Shelley does. It's always about, why do you want to make the change? Because actually it doesn't matter about anybody else unless that matters to you. So if you want to make a change for you and your family, your partner, whatever, but that's always the key, coming back to why do you want to make some kind of shift? So if you do know what you really want, but actually you're concerned about making that shift, the question to ask yourself is, why does this matter to me? What difference will it make? And why will this make the difference to my life? Because that's the piece. You have to get that stronger than ultimately the fear of the judgment.
Yeah. Oh my God, I love it. It's true. And we've had an episode on why. So go listen back to that as well, because I've come across so many whys, and then we have to delve deeper and really understand those as well. So going back to that, joining with the RAS, the Reticular Activation System, even if you are not brave enough at this point, and that's probably the wrong word, to say that vision out loud, is it enough to be just thinking it? Or do we have to have that visual stimulus? Do we have to have told the world and declared it?
No, not at all. No. In fact, telling the world is just another step in your own journey, I guess, of acknowledging and being really proud of what you're working towards. Actually, I don't think you need that at all, quite frankly. I mean, it can give another layer of accountability if that's what you need. But the most important part is you. Like I often say to people, I'm not trying to build like a movement of really selfish people, but fundamentally, my message is it's just about you right now because you're the one that's holding you back. So those things help. Yes, a visual stimulus helps, but you can have a visual stimulus that no one else knows about. Like I often say to people,
possibly where some of us start because of all of the other layers. So I guess the message right now on this particular moment in the podcast is, just start internally, believe it, think it, create it, and then when the opportunities do start presenting themselves, then we can make some decisions and take some actions. But I'm glad that it doesn't have to be declared. I've actually said in my intro to this podcast, listen to me secretly. Like there's a lot of that going on in just do it all for yourself to start with. No one needs to know.
Yeah, and so absolutely. Get yourself a nice little journal that's just for you, where you are sharing the things that are going on in your mind that you would really like to be not just in your head. Because actually they're not doing you any good in your head either. They're just getting mashed up with all the other stuff. So 100%, I would say start secretly. Just do it for you. And then build from there if you want to. You don't have to. The key to all of this is admitting to yourself what it is you want to create, and then learning to believe that you can have that, which then in turn leads into the actions you do or don't take to get there.
Yeah, no, I can hear and see our previous conversations, and it's so solid and so real and necessary with the people that I'm trying to connect with and show to. So the stages after that. So we understand it very, very kind of top layer. If you want more information, Shelley, I'll put all your details down in the podcast bio as well. So go find Shelley on her socials and message and get in touch if you need more of this. But so we understand why we're trying to train our brain to understand what we want, to focus, to open our eyes to the opportunities to then hopefully take them. And having that all internalized works, but there are other layers. So you do say we can layer that up with visualization and declaration, I guess. So do you want to touch on those?
Yeah, so look, the other layers. So everyone knows about vision boards, okay? They're very effective, they're very powerful, they are very useful. But, again, just remind you, vision boards don't have to be like the great big vision for everything in your life, or could be, and then you can do smaller versions. I know some of my clients do monthly vision boards. So they just take from their big vision boards and have little ones. Screensavers on phone are great things like this. Here's a great tip: passwords. Okay, we've got so many passwords. Use your passwords to keep front of mind the things you're trying to achieve. So there's lots of different ways. The key is just to keep it front of mind. And I use those words purposely because you've said there, we're retraining our brain. We are retraining our brain to think about this thing so that we're filtering out the stuff that's not relevant, so that we see the things that are relevant and the opportunities, so that we are also strengthening our why I want this, what I could do about it. And it's all then outweighing the core beliefs we all have, which is I can't. Think of your brain like scales almost. What you're trying to do is outweigh well, I can't do that, and everyone will judge me, and I'll never be able to, and who am I to even, with, yeah, but look, I'm seeing other people. Look at others. There's a real fine line between comparison and inspiration. But look to others for evidence it's possible. Back to my universal principle. It's out there in the universe. Other people are already doing it. So when you start, people like me, I bet there's people like you. So there's so many ways, but it's ultimately showing yourself more and more opportunities, evidence on the other side of the scales, if that makes sense.
And there's so much evidence inside the community that I'm building, the members, they're doing it. They did it. Now, many of them did have a real big kick into doing it because of the pandemic. And people have followed suit since then. And so I want people listening to realize that you don't have to be forced into this. Like, get busy finding ways, exploring, being curious. Because if something terrible, God forbid, not as bad as that, hopefully, but something, injury, health, change of responsibility, you might be glad that you started to really get clear on what you wanted, because you'll already be a few steps ahead of yourself in terms of taking that action and doing those steps. I want to tell everyone, Shelley, your story, because it's beautiful. You are where you plan to be. And I think there's a lesson in your journey as well, because I hope you won't mind me saying you got to it and then you didn't, and then you had to realign and you got to it again, and it's all worked beautifully. And there must be a lesson in that for everybody, right? Like, just if it doesn't work out, it does not mean it's not going to. It just means you've got to realign, readjust, refocus.
There is, so for context, I guess let's give a little bit of a layer further, if that's okay, to the story. So as Nicole and I have already said, Nicole's in Oman, I'm in Dubai. This is not our first rodeo in Dubai. Now, my husband and I had a really clear vision to live internationally, and Dubai was at the top of the list. And we got that opportunity in that pandemic year. And so we first came out to Dubai in 2020, and for 101 reasons, and I won't go into the whole story, it did not work out. And 2021, we came back to the UK, and we kind of jokingly say with our tails between our legs. We did not come back with our tails between our legs, but we did come back disappointed and a little bit jaded and a little bit burnt, if you like, and I don't mean from the sun. And initially went, well, that's clearly not supposed to happen, but only fleetingly. And what we did was exactly as you just described. Yeah, we not necessarily realigned, but we just allowed ourselves to reconnect and learn. That was the big thing, just learn from the experience and be able to look at what we had got rather than what we hadn't got. Mm-hmm. And that, it's easy to sit here and say that now. I would be lying if I said that was a really easy time to go through. That was one of the toughest years of our lives. But 2 years later, our opportunity came up, our next opportunity came up, and it was the right opportunity. And here we are more than a year later, loving our life and, looking at the next set of goals, if I'm honest. Was
there a moment where you kind of go, that's not worked, this isn't it, but then when you are sat comfortably on your own, building that vision, surely if it's the vision, it's still there, whether you've been burnt or not. And I guess that's the bit, right? If it's still there niggling away, then...
Yeah. Well, and actually this is when, so you've already touched on it a couple of times, I know you've done a previous episode on it. This is when you come back to why. Why did we want to do this? because what we had to do was kind of really acknowledge, okay, it didn't work. Okay, we didn't get what we wanted out of it. Does that mean it was the wrong decision, or does that mean it just didn't quite work out this time? Why did we want to do this, and do we still want it for those reasons? Because if we do, we go again. And so we went again.
Yeah. Resilience. And the performers listening in, I mean, we have got buckets of that. I mean, the amount of no's we've got in our careers and the amount of highs and lows. I always say to performers, and the reason I'm bringing in experts outside of the industry, Shelley, is because, you know, this is universal. Whoever you are, whatever your goals are, whatever your vision is, whatever your dream, whatever your ability and skills are, it's universal. It is absolutely open to everybody. So take that resilience, take that determination. Some people don't like the word tenacity, but I love the word tenacity. Like, take that tenacity and just focus so much on what you can see your life to be, and it will happen, because we've made such a hard career happen prior. So I just think the world is our oyster. Everybody's
absolutely agree. And look, I live with a number of mantras. You know, I live with the what's the worst that can happen, but equally, and we, you know, everybody's got their COVID stories. Everyone's got their own stories in the background. You know, this is why the why is so important. I know today's not about why, but this is all intrinsically linked. Here's what I don't want. I don't want to wake up one day and say, I wish I'd. I will not be that person. And I am not saying that I am bold and brave and do everything that I think I could do that will get me the results every single time. Of course I have fear. Of course I have self-doubt. I'm human. But I don't want to wake up in however many years' time saying, I wish I'd. And that's what brings me back. And so when I think, you know, and that's resilience. That is what resilience is. That is getting up and going, I know I want this. This is why I want it. I'm going to go again, even though it didn't work out this time.
But I am so thankful to say to you that it has worked out. I'm so proud of you and your journey. You are doing amazing things on both sides of the world. Dubai is very lucky to have you. And I know that you keep popping back to the UK. And when I'm back there next year, I'll be so grateful that you are still dipping your toe into the UK market as well. So we're going to draw it to a close, because we could keep on talking, especially you and I. But we can't about this topic because it is huge and it is big and it could go off on different directions and tangents. But ultimately, the message is get really clear on what you want your life to look like, and then let the brain and the science itself push and help you to achieve that, along with all those other superpowers that we all hold. I think this is going to be an episode where we're going to need to rewind, re-listen, and just take it all in again. But also, ladies and gents listening, Shelley's episode from the pandemic, that moment we spoke for 25 minutes in the Facebook group, that's still there. Like, come and find the Facebook group, come and listen. Nothing really has changed. Like, the information is so solid.
I still bang on about the same stuff now as I did 4 years ago.
That's important. It's not one of those fluffy things that, oh, this month it's a bit like this, and 3 years on, like, this is factual. This is how it works. This is what you can do with it. And I think that's the brilliance of you as a coach, and also the topic. Like, it's steadfast, and you're doing it and sharing it so well. So tell everybody where they can find you, Shelley, and then I will pop it all down in the links as well.
Well, my favourite place to hang out is Instagram. I am very easy to find at Shelley Bosworth Coaching. It'll be in the links. Make sure you spell Shelley correctly. Yeah, come over and give me a follow. I'm there most days, supporting, metaphorically kicking up the backside, keeping it real, and hoping to help as many women as possible to go forth and achieve their goals.
Perfect. Oh, I'm so excited. I'm so grateful. Thank you so much, Shelley. Ladies and gents, you've been listening to the Showbiz Side Hustle Podcast with my expert, Shelley Bosworth, talking about vision. Come back and listen to all of the other episodes. It is cram-packed with info, ideas, tasks, tips, you name it. No gatekeeping here. We are just giving you all the love. Thank you. Okay, guys, that's it for today. I hope you've enjoyed the show. Thank you for joining me here on the Showbiz Side Hustle Podcast. So until next time, please do take a little bit of action, that very first step, and make sure that you are doing something for you and your Showbiz Side Hustle this week to move you forward and get you heading quickly and swiftly and strategically towards success.